Before the pandemic, my work schedule often looked like this. Wake up at 6:50, take a shower, eat breakfast, cycle to the station, take the train to work, work around 8 hours, go to the station, cycle home, make dinner, do some social stuff, go to sleep. Wake up, shower, breakfast, cycle, train, work, train, home, eat, sleep, repeat. And then the pandemic hit. Suddenly, I didn't have to commute. I could sleep until 8:30, do chores when working, work out. My entire routine was changed. Great, right? Well, not exactly, because one thing I didn't change: the 8 hours of work. And let me be clear, my boss was actually really chill during this time. It was me that rigidly stuck to these 8 hours. I was feeling bad when I didn't clock a full day. And because I was at home, I could actually continue work, because I definitely wasn't productive for 8 hours. And that's actually pretty normal. Work that you need deep concentration for isn't actually really suited for 8 hours on end. And yet, it's still the absolute worldwide norm.
Working 9 to 5, what a way to make a living.
On a normal day, how many hours do you work?
Too much.
How long do I work? 8 hours.
8 hours.
Nowadays, some companies and governments are trying to change it.
Some researchers are asking whether workers would be more productive and companies more profitable with shorter shifts.
So why do we do it? Where did the 8-hour workday actually come from? How did we get here?
I call for legislation to guard the toilers in the factory and to ensure them a fair wage and protection from the dangers of their trades.
Fellow workers, we want peace and prosperity in this country here.
The 8-hour workday is a story about new industries, prosperity, brutal working conditions, and the rise of socialism. The story is older than you might think. So let's dive right in. The 8-hour workday has been around quite some time. The first time it's mentioned is by Philip II of Spain. In 1593, he introduced a law that workers should work a maximum of 8 hours. In more modern times, our story starts with the Industrial Revolution in England. This is a time when factories are born, places where textiles and steel are made with steam and electricity. A time of new inventions like the spinning jenny, the flying shuttle, and the spinning mule. So that's a spinning jenny. I mean, I've heard these things 1,000 times, but I actually had no idea how they looked. Okay, so the Industrial Revolution really changes things.
To keep one weaver busy in the England of the early 18th century required the work of 8 spinners. But with the new flying shuttle, weavers could make 4 to 8 times as much cloth as before.
Textile that was made by hand can now be made by a machine, and factory owners want maximum output. Using 2 shifts, you can actually have the factory running for 24 hours. So there's a big demand for labor. And men, women and children migrate from the countryside to cities to work in factories. Yes, also children. Child labor was actually very normal. In 1833, things had gotten so out of hand that the English government makes a new law against child labor. The law says that 9 to 13-year-olds can only work for 8 hours, and 14 to 18-year-olds can work a maximum of 12 hours. And also remember that people actually worked 6 days a week, so a 14-year-old could legally work up to 72 hours, doing hard, dangerous work. And that could be a lot more for adults. That's really not very good. So children's rights are completely safeguarded. What about safety of the workplace? Well, the socialist Friedrich Engels says that industrial cities look like an army just returned from a campaign. This one has lost an arm or a part of one, that one a foot, the third one half of a leg. So yeah, no wonder people are like, well, maybe this is not a great situation. It's a guy called Robert Owen that comes up with the idea for an 8-hour workday. He thinks of a nice slogan that says 8 hours labor, 8 hours recreation, and 8 hours of sleep. It's not really science, but it neatly divides the day in 3 chunks. And it also works if you want to have multiple shifts in your factory. And these 8 hours of recreation, well, I guess we have women to do all the house chores. But Owen really means well. His ideas don't really stick in England, but in the USA, they do listen. They're like, this is a good idea. It's a good slogan. workers form bands that fight for worker rights, and they embrace the 8 hours. One of the first mass labor movement is called the Knights of Labor, which honestly is a great name.
The Knights of Labor.
What's even better is the people actually in the organization. They're more like the knights of facial hair. I mean, look at them. Great stashes all around. Okay, puns aside. At one point they have actually 800,000 members, and that's about 20% of all the workers. That's pretty huge. So what do these groups do to make sure that they actually get better conditions? They go on strikes.
Fellow workers, we want peace and prosperity in this country here. That's what we're fighting for, and that's what we're going to have.
In Minneapolis, the Teamsters Strike effectively paralyzes the city.
In the 1880s, you have huge strikes in the USA and the world, with million workmen laying down work for better conditions and an 8-hour day. After such a strike in 1886, the labor movement says the 1st of May 1819 should be the day that 8 hours becomes the norm. We're organizing another strike to make it happen. This becomes an international event, with millions of workers laying down their work to protest worker conditions. It happens in the US, but also in Europe and South America. And this is why the 1st of May is an International Workers' Day for almost the entire world. But is it effective? Well, slowly and steadily worker groups in different industries get to work less hours. And then in 1914, business finally gets it. Ford makes the decision that 8 hours will be the new norm. In this time you get a growing wave of national legislation that makes sure that 8 hours is adopted. And that happens because socialist political parties influence national politics for the first time. After that, gradually, working on Saturday is also stopped. So this 8-hour day is actually a right won by workers. Yay! And so nowadays we actually work half of the hours we used to work. And yet, maybe we could work even less. Because now we've been talking about industrial jobs, but jobs have moved away from factories and manufacturing. Most of us are not standing on a manufacturing line. And we also have seen a huge growth in productivity per hour. Research shows that us working less could make us way more happy. So why don't we do it? Do you want to work less? Companies are also talking about working maybe a maximum of six hours each day. What would you think of that?
Well, it's only 2 hours less. You can rest more and maybe you can be more productive.
If I look at colleagues that are a little bit older than me, that have a chance to work 80%, I don't think that they are less productive than the ones that are working 5 full days.
This hard work for better conditions has made 8 hours a norm in our culture. And even for me, now I don't have a regular job, but I find it really hard to let go of this idea of 8 hours. If I stop my work before that, even though I have done some great work, it still feels it's not right somehow. Because since I grew up working hard and being busy is a sign of success. But the pandemic maybe has changed this.
According to an August 2021 poll, more than half of workers surveyed said they plan to look for a new job in the coming year.
With huge numbers of people quitting their jobs because they don't like them anymore.
A lot of people are taking time to reevaluate what they want to do with their lives and what work actually means to them.
Maybe now is the time to reevaluate what we're actually working for. And then we can change this cultural norm that's already more than a century old. If you want to know more about the power of culture, be sure to check out this video about how high heels changed from being a tool of war to the most feminine piece of clothing out there.